Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round one of the AROC Racing League's TCR Championship for 2025. It is great to be back on your screens, folks, as we're currently on board with Greg Young, second in the qualifying session, but more on that in a moment. As I say, great to be back here commentating once again for the AROC Racing Leagues. Of course, we have a round last week with our historic Alpha Championship in our lovely GTA 105 series machinery. So if you didn't catch that, well worth a watch back. If you're looking to just how fantastic the cars look heading around the circuit, which is something I commented on the most recent episode of the AROC podcast. If you haven't tuned in to that one, definitely worth a watch as well for all things AROC Racing League. So for you kind of your news bulletins, what's going on as we head into the next season. So, as I say, delighted to be back here today. That's episode 12, by the way, so make sure you tune in to that one. But we're here in qualifying at the Silverstone National layout in our fabulous Juliet TCR cars. Headline figures: 75 litres, turbocharged engine, 350 horsepower. 12 minutes left on the clock, and currently it's Colin Knief who navigated that car quickly, or the quickest rather, around the national layout here at Silverstone. So, more truncated compared to the GP layout. I'm going to try who's actually out on track at the moment, that being Alan Matthews, who we're currently on board with. But Colin Knief with a 57.891 completes this session, which is a very respectable time indeed. Sub 58 is going to be the quick stuff from today's running, so great to see that nice, strong early lap from Colin Knief there. As we have 11 minutes left on the clock, so plenty of opportunity for drivers to push on and try to find a few tenths here or there around the layout. The full lap. I can tell you who is going to. They're currently on their out lap. It's the aforementioned session leader, Colin Knief. So I think who better suited to take us around one very fast lap indeed. Let's go on board then as we head Woodcote and gets back on to the old Silverstone start-finish straight, which for GP layouts, but what is still natural layout being above racing. So, Cops, your first corner, your right-hander there. You can kind of drop this car in with a lot of confidence, really, because there's plenty of grip on offer relative to the amount of power. There'll be people in Julietta's on the road who have more power than these WTCRs, and very heavily modified. That brings you down straight through to Maggots in a moment. Obviously on the GP layouts, once again, it brings you from Maggots, Beckett's, and then you're heading all the way down towards Stowe. Here you go down the right and straight down the mountain, straight once you dive towards Brooklands. The braking zone comes here, which you can see Colin Knief navigating, a little close behind by Nathan Birch, I believe, just behind there. Around the right-hander of Luffield, washing out a little bit wide potentially in his front-wheel drive cars, so do watch out for that one. We'll more on that in just a moment. Before you open up the corner, you want to be on the throttle as early as possible in the turbocharged car, or it's that needs to climb on cam. Got both of this season before you head on to the start-finish straight, exiting Woodcote, and that brings an end to your lap. That previous lap was a 58.7 there for Colin Knief, so he'll be aiming for more of an improvement if possible for his sake, although he's looking pretty comfortable at the moment on provisional pole with a 57.891. Let's see who else we got on this lap then. I'm going to give a mention to Andy Webb, newcomer to the series, so welcome Andy. Hope you enjoy your time out in TCR. Likewise for Miles Davis as well. A bit of a roller coaster last week out, in first time out of the 105 series cars, but did pick up some speed, notably so, and seemed to have a really good time out there, seemed to really enjoy it, so hopefully he does the same this week as well. He does dive into the pits, but he's currently running P9, so great to see Miles Davis back in the WTCRs. And then we have someone's stolen my car. Who has taken my car? I can tell you who's taken my car. Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton, great to have you back, Mike. It's been a few seasons since we've had Mike in the AROC Racing Leagues, and you know what? This brings me great joy. I lied. My 75 camera car spent many a season, well, 7 or 8, maybe 6, 7 or 8 seasons just sat idling in the pit lane before it got an outing at Monaco of all places, when I decided to give it a bit of a blast around in the qualifying session whilst commentating. And that was it for the 75. But already, early on in its camera car career, my Giulietta is getting a run out. on track. Now, I should mention, Mike, commentator's not supposed to be biased. There might be a little bit of bias that creeps in if I see my camera car doing well. But that is a bit of a sword of Damocles, though, because on the other hand, Mike, if I see this car being crashed, well, there's going to be some strong opinions. Either way, great to see Mike back in the AROC Racing League, currently running 10th at the moment. That was actually off the back of the podcast, I believe. He thought, you know what, let's give it another go. So great to see that. I'm not going to say it with Mike. Andrew Whitehead, who is currently watching along from sunny Portugal. At least I hope it's sunnier than the UK. So hello to Andrew if you're watching along, our sim racing, our sim section secretary, of course. So big thank you to Andrew for all his work. But we have 7 minutes left in this qualifying session, and it's still led by Colin Knief. It is a 57.8, half a second between himself and Greg Young in P2 at the moment. Although Greg Young is on for an improvement this lap, so we're going to dive on board with him in the 939 Corsa car. Car I mentioned in the previous stream, a company of his which obviously offers fantastic prints, liveries, and all sorts of automotive-related merch. I believe my own takes Mito one is on the way, so Mito are on the way, which will be fantastic to see. Greg Young has had a nice time out as of late in the AROC Racing League action. Had a few high points in the racing last season and started off this season pretty well in GTA 1750s, and he'll be hoping to continue that on, and it looks like he can be currently in P2. Does have John Cole for pressure. Great to see John Cole back out in the AROC Racing Leagues. One of my favourite liveries, as he used to bang on about whenever he was out on the track. Great to see it's back here at Silverstone. He's currently in 3rd, just ahead of Nathan Birch. Nathan Birch does have a slightly tweaked livery, I believe, for this season, unless I am mistaken indeed. That wasn't. I got his livery confused earlier on, so I do apologise for that. It was Jack Hodson with a slightly tweaked livery, I believe, for this season. Has slightly more legible stickers on the side of the car, which is great to see. A nice classic racing livery is what I'm going to call that one. It reminds me of some touring cars of old, so very nice indeed is that livery. Continue on board with Colin Knief, unchallenged for the past few laps, it must be said. And yeah, just very comfortable out here at the Silverstone National layout. Eleven cars then on the grid this evening as it stands so far. Although we should add, I did see Matt Daly join the server earlier on. He is definitely in the server. He's posted a 57.9, so apologies for my stating of a 58.3 being the closest we've had so far. And it's incorrect. Matt Daly with a 57.9 does get close to Colin Knief. That's perhaps why Colin Knief is pushing on, because have a guess who's just joined the server, folks? It's Matt Daly. Matt Daly's back in the seat for some action. So we're going to get a true Matt Daly versus Colin Knief battle of old here on your screen, folks. That would be great to see. A bit of traffic forming up on the Wellington Straight. Hopefully that is easily navigable, and it looks to be, as we see Colin Knief now diving into Brooklands. No major pressure so far. Very composed out there is Colin Knief. Half a second separates himself and currently on P2 at the time in town. And Matt Daly, so it's just over a 10. So you could do with potentially pushing on just a little bit to give himself a little bit more of a safety net. We're going to go on board with Matt Daly because we haven't seen him in this session so far. Running along very nicely are these two. So they're kind of picking up where we left off from, really, with these two drivers. They've been pretty furious at the top end of the running for quite some time, although it must be said some drivers getting very close indeed. Andrew Whitehead very composed around various points in the previous season upon his return, and looking like he could have been off for a really strong start last weekend as well. Should I say last week. Matt Daly, an unfortunate route for Matt in race 2 last week in our 105 series cars. He'll be hoping to make amends for that in the front-wheel drive action today. Let's see if he can do that. He's currently looking pretty poised and a pretty good place to do that, it must be said, with a 59.9. Looking down to P3 then, another driver who on their return seems to be on pretty fine form. John Cole, a 58.4, has some pressure, it must be said. We're going to have an interesting mid-pack battle forming up here, folks. A close field indeed. That is one thing about using the Silverstone National layout, I suppose, is that even if there are examples of a field spread going on throughout our driver roster, it's not a very complicated circuit. There's definitely some technical parts to the Silverstone National layout, but it's a pretty short, pretty simple layout. There's only a couple of corners, realistically, in modern machinery. And that means that there are only a few opportunities to lose time, or firstly only a few gain time. So, John Cole, 58.43, down to P8, Jack Hodson, 58.51. So there's only 800ths of a second, rather, covering 5 drivers. And that doubles that to 1.6 in that as well. So a very close pack of drivers here. Now, Matt Daly, upon his rejoining of the session, has posted 58.2. That is not his fastest time. That is currently installed on the server. That is a 57.9 as a reminder, folks. So that will be his time that it takes him to qualifying. Doesn't change his position at the moment, just changes the perspective on the qualifying battle. You might see Greg Young leapfrogging Matt Daly with, say, a 58.1. Matt Daly still has a stored 57.9. That is the time that he'll be taking, as it stands at least, into the racing in around about 6 minutes' time. We don't have long to go, folks. 1 minute left on the clock, which means drivers have one major opportunity really to get around the track and post a final fast lap. You are allowed to get one quick lap left. You have some time on the clock and you start, you head across the start-finish line, you can get one more fast lap in. The question is, who will be first to do that? We will start running through our drivers currently out on track as that time approaches. Let's see who's out on track and improving at the moment. The answer is no one at the moment. Everyone is going a little bit slower than their previous best through the first sector at least. Let's see how that changes through the sector 2. It's 2-sector circuit, a very short sector, of course. 22 seconds left on the clock. Then who's not going to make it round? I don't think we're going to see the likes of Paul Millman and Alan Matthews, who are on board with at the moment, making it round. Maybe Nathan Birch as well can be added into that. In fact, we are not going to see Colin Cleave might just about squeeze another lap in. He does indeed. So he will be the driver that we are going to follow around. Potentially, in fact, no, we're going to jump up a little bit further to the likes of Andy Webb, who we're going to jump on board with now, who is currently heading round through Maggots. Andy Craker as well. In fact, Greg Young. In fact, Alan Matthews we can jump on board with. Alan Matthews is about to come across the line. Can he improve? Does not improve. That timeout remains. P7 out on a track. Up next we have Paul Millman covering in 12th. An improvement on the previous lap, just not enough of an improvement, unfortunately, to make a way up past P12 on the grid. Currently third in the running is Greg Young, and Greg Young in the red liveried car crosses the line of 58.356. That is not the fastest lap on the last lap, unfortunately, for Greg Young. Up next, Andy Craker crossing the line in style, but does not improve. Then it's going to be Matt Daly. This is the real qualifying battle, folks. 58.1 last time out, 57.9. It is not enough for pole. That means that Colin Keneally crosses the line there with a 57.832, nearly matching their best time. Would have taken pole with that lap anyway, but set it early on, folks. It's Colin Keneally on the front row of the grid in P1. He takes pole on the first pole of this AROC Racing League's Touring Car Championship for 2025 here at the Silverstone National layout. Sharing the front row with Matt Daly, Greg Young and John Cole just behind on row 2. Then we have Andy Craker and Nathan Birch on row 3. That brings an end to qualifying, folks. We'll catch you in about 5 minutes as we get ready for the first race of this season. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, on the grid, ready for our first race of the season. It should be a good one. Let's see how things pan out then as we run down towards Cops for the first time in our Juliet and WTCRs. And a reminder of our grid order then before we go green. It's Colin Keneath and Matt Daly sharing the front row, followed by Greg Young and John Cole on row 2. Then we move to Andy Craker and Nathan Birch on row 3, followed by Alan Matthews and Jack Hudson row 4. Then we have Andy Webb, Miles Davis row 5, with Mike Hilton and Paul Millman leading our grid before we go racing. It should be a good one, folks. We have 6 red lights on the gantry, and we are away for race 1 of the AROC Racing League Touring Car Championship for 2025. It's a good start for everyone involved, it must be said. Congratulations, Colin Keneath leads us. Through Cops we go. Matt Daly gets a slightly tighter run though and a better exit. Gains some momentum on Colin Keneath now as we go side by side. We're going to run down towards Maggots in just a moment. First, a slight left-hand kick before we have the corner coming back towards Matt Daly. And a crucial overtaking move potentially for how this race is going to pan out. Matt Daly takes the lead of the race. Colin Keneath putting that pressure on though. He wants to take his race lead back, what he will feel like is his rightful race lead as we run down the Wellington straight now. Watch out for Greg Young. He's got all that slipstream from the 2 race leaders out in front and can close up on our race leaders as they run a little bit wide into Brooklands. They do manage to keep the noses on the tarmac, but the question is how much time have they lost? We'll see as they head around into Woodcote in just a moment. The answer is it's Matt Daly who leads. They haven't lost all that much time. These two starting to build a gap already. Fantastic stuff from our 2 race leaders. Colin Keneath building that pressure then in the black, orange and white liveried cars. We run around Cops side by side. We go, tries to hang it round the outside. Does it work? We'll just have to wait and see as Matt Daly tries to defend as much as he can, but he does need to leave that room for Colin Keneath. We still go side by side. This is fantastic stuff from our experienced racers here. Watch out, here is Greg Young. I believe there's been an off there. John Cole, after starting so well, has to drop into the gravel and lose his positions. What a start to this race. I think Andy Craig's had an off as well. He has, but he is back on the way. It's the most important thing. There we go then. Colin Keneath on the entry into Brooklands, takes the inside line and takes back the race lead after 1 lap hard battling with Matt Daly. This is brilliant stuff, folks, as we head into our right-hander. Just see how much his driver is soaring at that wheel already. The tyres will be in good condition at this point, but if any more hard battling, we might start to see that understeer creeping in. Wheel drive, turbo boost, it's always going to happen, but it's Colin Keneath who leads us as we start the next lap of this race. Just look at the time that he gained on Matt Daly. Matt Daly's going to have his work cut out for him, I suspect, in order to try and charge for the race lead once more. If Matt Daly isn't careful as well, here is Greg Young on the scene. Greg might be trying to find a way past if he can. Here we go. Fantastic view of the entry in to Maggots there. We saw Matt Daly taking a tighter line on entry, kissing the curb, kissing the apex of the corner, to try and gain some time. It didn't quite work out as we now see the gap being pretty consistent between Colin Keneath, Matt Daly and Greg Young. These 3 building a clear gap to Nathan Birch running in 4th at the moment, who enjoys a little bit of free space. He can drop just behind to see Alan Matthews and Jack Hudson enjoying their own battle as we run into Brooklands. Running in 5th at the moment is Alan Matthews, half a second separated 2 at the moment. Jack Hudson actually up onto 3 wheels here. Car quite famous doing it is the Juliet WTCR actually. That wheel drive, all the weights on the front end, and if you upset it a little bit more by stamping on the brakes with the stiff suspension, that inside wheel on the rear is going to jump up into the air. That's what we saw for Jack Hudson. Meanwhile, back out in front, if the camera would like to catch up, here we go. It's Paul Millman, not quite back out in front, but enjoying a battle nonetheless. Running in P9 is Paul Millman, kept the nose clean. Obviously, we saw John Cole and Andy Craker having issues on the first lap. See, it's Paul Millman who runs in P9 at the moment, just ahead of Mike Hilton, looking after the camera car very well. Mike, top work, sir, as you run through the Maggots right-hander onto the Wellington straight we go, and we see a bit of a drag race beginning to form up here. We can see all the drivers actually diving into each other's slipstream to try to make sure we get as much of a straight line advantage as possible. Having a look down the inside is Mike Hilton trying to gain time on the braking zones compared to Paul Millman. It seemed to work, it must be said. He's looking markedly closer as we run around the Luffield right-handed bend, almost like a hairpin, just very wide indeed. Meanwhile, out in front, we are side by side between Jack Hudson and Alan Matthews, running through Woodcote and on to the start-finish straight. Here we go, this is going to be brave, folks, as we see Jack Hudson taking that inside line there. Later on the brakes, we run through Cops, being a bit more brave and carrying the extra speed. Maintains P5 in the end, but here we go. Alan Matthews, a cleaner run through Cops, might pay dividends Does it? No, it's well defended by Jack Hodson as we run through the right-hander and on to the Wellington straight once more. Are we about to see the same move perform once again? Well, I know one thing, that's for sure. Mike Hilton in the camera car beginning to drop a little bit further back. John Cole and Andy Craker running in P10 and P11 now. I suspect, Mike, not your fault. Whenever I've driven a car with that livery on, it's always been very slow, and it's quite simply can't be the driver. It wouldn't be possible. It must be the livery. Anyway, as we see John Cole trying to work his way through the pack now as we drive into Brooklands, is getting very close indeed to Paul Millman, right on the rear wing of Paul Millman. In fact, as we run through Buffield Woodcote in just a moment, I suspect it will be a question of when and not if for this overtake. Let's have another glimpse at our front runners though. Here we go. It's Colin Knief versus Matt Daly as they run down towards Maggotts in just a moment. Colin Knief then leads this race as John Cole goes down the inside through Copse. Nice move, saw a gap, and pretty happy indeed, I suspect, with that overtake. Oh, look at this. Here comes Andy Craker with a lot of speed there. I'm not quite sure if there was a car's width. That is a terrible shame for John Cole. A bit of a passenger in that impact almost. He is able to continue on. Has lost some time, but actually when all is said and done, not too much. I don't think Andy Craker quite appreciated just how much of a pace delta there was. It's so easy to do sometimes. You don't realise just how much quicker you're going than your opponent, and unfortunately have to get to slightly close up. A bit of a racing incident there is what we're going to call that one, I think. Either way, as we start the next lap, it's Colin Knief versus Matt Daly. This is the battle that we've been expecting to see for quite a while in this race. It is now going to happen, folks, as we run round through Copse. Colin Knief leads this race. We obviously enjoyed the battle on lap one, but here we go. We get a replay of it, and we run into Maggotts in just a moment. Apologies. Down the inside goes Matt Daly. This is the line that he always seems to take into this corner as we run it down the Wellington straight once more. That's not quite the camera angle that I want. This is the camera. No, that's the camera car. That's another camera car. Here we go, side by side. You know what? We're just going to stick to the manual view, and we can see that it is going to be Colin Knief down the inside, running into Brooklands with Matt Daly side by side. Does he win out? We head round the right-hander in just a moment. And there we go, 0.2 of a second is still the margin. Matt Daly dropped just a little bit behind as he tries to benefit from the slipstream from his near rival. Now we have a chance, briefly I suspect, maybe? No, we won't, because Matt Daly's closing up. I was going to talk about strategy, but we're going to hold off to see if there's a lull in this race. Well, I don't think we're going to get that because it has been fantastically action-packed so far as we run in to turn one. 0.3 is the margin between Colin Knief and Matt Daly. Are we going to see a bit of a repeat of his previous attempt last time around? No, Colin Knief very much wiser to it as we run through the right-hand out and onto the right. Having a look then at the strategy for this race, standard trait new to the AROC Racing League. I particularly expect if you've got more new viewers from the podcast last time, over the past few days, welcome first of all, but a reminder that we do run fuel loads, everything like that, which means that as we get further into this race, the weight of the cars does reduce, and track rates will be wide open for quite a while. I imagine we'll make a decent difference. So we will see these cars get quicker when the tyres are still live. So that is one thing to watch out for. Fastest lap out on the track at the moment is 57.854. So that's a nice lap from Matt Daly there. That will put him very close indeed to Colin Knief on pole. Qualifying at the moment. Another thing to add about strategy is that we can pick free tyres. We don't tend to. Everyone tends to pick the softs, but Andy Webb and Miles Davies are two rookies this season, actually going for the mediums. I like their thinking. What they've probably realised is they've got plenty of practice laps in. One thing we didn't notice is just how dedicated everyone has been in terms of practice, so big thank you for that. They're probably just not quite so sure that, you know what, the softs, we're new to the car, new to the season, perhaps the softs might not make it towards the end in a comfortable way, whereas the mediums, they're not going to have the out-and-out pace early on in the race in it. That pace will converge with the soft as you get further into the race, and they're going to have added security. You know that you're going to have a grip later on. The soft could very well drop out pretty much at the end. We know we're not going to have that with the mediums late on into the running. And here we go then. Getting close to the halfway mark in this race. And it is still Colin Knief who leads from Matt Daly. These two enjoying a battle earlier on. It has waned ever so slightly more. I suspect we could be seeing it in just a few moments. Just behind them is Greg Young, a little bit lonesome out on the track at the moment, just a little ways behind. If he's not careful though, he will have to watch out for his previous teammate Nathan Birch, who's moving along the lap a little bit quicker than Greg Young, only to the tune of about 1/10 of a second, but every little helps, as some retail chains would say. And that means that over the next 15 minutes we could be seeing a battle brewing between Greg Young and Nathan Birch, and watch out for that one. Alan Matthews going to be running in P5 under pressure from Jack Hodson, but not too much. The gap is around about 1 second. Miles Davis currently running in P7, pretty much as well as we said. Likewise for Andy Webb. Then we have Paul Millman in a P9, not comfortably, because here comes Mike Hilton down the inside in the camera car. What a move! Fantastic stuff. I'm going to keep mentioning the car you're in. Pleases me to see it doing well in a competitive event, shall we say. That is a rarity. But Mike Hilton with a fantastic move down the inside, saw his opportunity, up into P9 he goes, down the inside. So it's Mike Hilton now in P9 with Paul Millman's company in P10, John Cole just behind running in P11, followed by Andy Breaker in P12. That's your order for this race, as Mike Hilton seemingly swapping positions with Paul Millman by the looks of things. They go wide and deep in two tops to our three runners here. Starting the next lap, and this battle for P9 becomes quite interesting, because through goes John Cole now, and now we could be seeing a bit of a battle brewing up for P9 between two drivers who qualified, or at least in the case of John Cole, qualified a little bit higher up than they are currently running in this race. Let's see as we run down the Wellington Straight how things will pan out. Bit of slipstream under the rear wing of Mike Hilton for John Cole, so that could very much help matters as we run into Brooklands. Mike Hilton seems to be pretty up to speed, it must be said. Qualifying perhaps not quite representative of the speed that Mike Hilton has, getting closer to those 58-second laps for Mike Hilton in P9. I should add no damage. A couple of the cars after the early race incidents might be playing in this battle. Matt Daly then running in P2 at the moment. Less than 1 second between himself and Colin Knief. That gap has been closer though at various moments in this race. We'll see if it closes up later on. I should add actually, as we see Mike Hilton now fancying his chance of getting past Andy Webb, and he does so down the inside at Maggots, but does he go too deep? I think he does go too deep into the corner, because Andy Webb says thank you very much, I'm going on back through. Fair run though as we run onto the Wellington Straight for Mike Hilton. He's bringing John Cole into this, is Mike, so we're going to have a 3-car back here for P8. Down the inside goes Mike Hilton, a very brave move. Andy Webb wise to it though. Nice defence from the pink and grey liveried car, and it's Andy Webb who maintains P8 on those medium tyres. This could play very well into his hands actually if he keeps his battle going on. Might get to a point where the tyres begin to drop off, because obviously Mike is going to be pushing those softs to the limit to try and find a way past Mike Hilton. Sorry, no, to try and find a way past Andy Webb, and Andy Webb might just be able to keep his rivals at bay. Can he? No, through goes John Cole with a remarkable amount of speed rather, running through into the first corner. It is going to be John Cole up into P9, Mike Hilton in P10, Andy Webb running in at P8. So John Cole now is going to be the driver to try and charge on through and close up on Andy Webb. If he can do so, let's see if that is possible as we head into the second half of this race. Watching a brilliant battle brewing up here, if we can get the words out properly, between Mike Hilton and Andy Craker. Andy Craker having a look around to see if he can find a way past Paul Millman. Paul Millman, though, seemingly on the defence here. Let's see, no, spinning out for Andy Craker potentially. I didn't quite see if there was contact. Apologies, the camera is having a bit of a panic halfway through this race, seemingly. It's Paul Millman ahead of Andy Craker at the moment. Not a race to remember for Andy so far. Let's see if he can recover from it as we head further in into the action. Left on the top, meanwhile out in the front it is going to be Colin Knief who leads things. I suspect Silverstone is not a venue that the camera particularly enjoys, because we have issues in the previous week's race as well, so hopefully issues to alleviate themselves, because it is rather frustrating. Anyway, we continue on with Colin Knief leading 8 tenths of a second ahead of Matt Daly. Matt Daly not able to close up, although it is an impressive feat to be matching Colin Knief at least at this point in the the race. Matt Daly, the previous lap was a 56.996, definitely blows up. It's Colin Cleaver who leads us with a personal best so far on this sector and could be on to a fast lap, responding then to the charge from the yellow livery car just behind. Further back though, I was about to say John Cole's getting ready to perform an overtake, but he has already performed said overtake as we head onto the Wellington straight. John Cole eventually does get past Andy Webb. But Andy's going to have a look down the inside to run into Brooklands. This would be very brave indeed. Can he make it stick? No. John Cole does well to box it off despite late braking move from Andy Webb. Fantastic racing between those two. They really know how to put on a show, they do. I'm very much looking forward to seeing 11 more rounds of this as we continue on further into the season. Meanwhile, out in front, that gap is still sitting around about 1 second. These two not able to bring on a proper fight just yet. Well, I say that it is remarkable. They have been battling for so close. And speaking so close at the moment, it's Paul Milne and Andy Craker currently heading around the Luffield right-hander. That's a complete lie. They're heading into Maggots. Come on, camera, do keep up. But down the inside goes Paul Milne. Tries to find a way past his neighbour to do so just yet. I'm heading on to the Wellington straight. Here we go then. It's Andy Craker out in front, 6 tenths of a second separating these two drivers. Paul Milne will benefit from a slipstream if he can close up. Dive in just a moment, a decent gap between the two remains. So we're not going to have any immediate moves just yet. Big thank you to everyone behind the scenes as well who put a fantastic effort in getting all of these liveries sorted for both our GTA 17 and our GTA. They're a decent cross. Ready on the Maggots like to be here or there an update, and they do look very good indeed. Another nice touch is that they are cross compatible in terms of across the two cars. They are familiar. So if you see, for example, Andy Craker with the blue and red paint splashes on his livery, you'll see that in the GTA 1750 as well, which is a very nice touch indeed. A little bit of familiarity across the two cars. Complete the AROC Racing League experience, doesn't it? And if you are looking to get involved, do drop us a message after the back of the podcast. Last week we did see plenty of, I actually did see quite a few questions come in the likes of our meter register, where we saw asking 11 if you guys think, can I get involved? The answer to that is absolutely yes. If you haven't already, do make sure you find any way to get involved. If you're not quite sure, that could even be dropping myself a message on Instagram, on Facebook, an email if for some reason you've got my personal email. Any AROC Racing Leagues or any AROC official for that matter channel, do make sure you do get in touch if you want to get involved. Even on this stream, if you happen to have come across it and you want to drop a comment, see how to get involved, that's enough. Be in touch. Heading through Maggots we go then. Andy Webb going down the inside on Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton pretty quite wide actually going on to the grass. Unfortunately for Mike Hilton, losing a few positions in the mix of that. I suspect in the final 7 minutes, pace he's demonstrated at various points. We could be on for a decent battle here, as we are between Miles Davis and John Cole. John Cole working his way up into P7 there. Nice move down the inside for John Cole there. We're seeing that brave move being performed on a few occasions for our drivers in the Julietta WTCR. So I suspect that this car is making that opportunity available with its capability to race. 7 minutes left on the clock to go then, and Colin Knief leads our action here. Andy Craker up into P9 just ahead of Andy Webb. Michael in P11 just ahead of Paul Milne. 12 cars on the grid, which means that we will have a couple that don't score points for this running, so that P10 will be ever so more important than it already is to try and find quick past your opponents here in P11 or P12. Back to the leader of the race then, it's John Cole. Doesn't lead. He's currently in P7, but Colin Knief who leads with Matt Daly quite wide into Cops. I suspect the tyres are beginning to give up a little bit. It's Colin Knief ahead of Matt Daly, then it is Greg Young ahead of Nathan Birch. We have Alan Matthews, followed by Jack Hodson in P6. Quiet race, but a decent race for Jack Hodson. Closing up on Alan Matthews. No, they are matching each other identically in terms of time. Then we have John Cole running P7, Miles Davis P8, Andy Craker P9, followed by Andy Webb in P10. Under pressure though from Mike Hilton, who runs in P11, having a look around the outside, potentially into Cops. That would be brave. if he can make that move stick. Let's see. We run round the long, high-speed right-hander. Off the track goes Mike Hilton. Does come back onto the track a little bit further ahead. I think we are, though, in general. Everyone is being quite friendly and everyone is taking the IndyCar line, shall we say, to the cops. I'm not just seeing Mike Hilton doing that, seeing everyone. So as long as everyone's doing it, it doesn't matter, does it? That is the track. It's Mike Hilton up into P10, then we have Andy Webb in P11, and then Paul Mullen running in P12. That brings our order for this race, as we now have 5 minutes left to go. Here we go, a three-wide battle as we run into Cobbs. It's going to be it's going to be Millman down the inside, Andy Webb in the middle, and here is Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton dives towards the inside. We are still three wide as we run down towards Maggott. This is fantastic stuff, folks. It's Millman who briefly wins out. He drops back, though, 2 positions all of a sudden. Andy Webb in P10, Mike Hilton P11, and then we have Millman who runs around the right-hander. On to the Wellington straight we go. It's Webb in front. The question is for how long, because there's a slipstream for Hilton. There's also a slipstream for Millman. Meanwhile, Craig has got ahead of Miles Davis, and we run it down towards Brooklands. Hilton goes down the inside, but it's defended by Andy Webb. This is brilliant stuff. Millman lays in waiting, just hanging around the outside, waiting for an opportunity to present itself, and we see it's Andy Craig running in P8. Then we have Miles Davis just behind Andy Webb and Mike Hilton. I'm going to stay on board with Mike Hilton. I suspect Mike Hilton's going to be the big mover in this battle. That's what he has been in quite a few of these battles in this race so far. The camera's actually been pointing at this lower midfield action for quite some time in this race, and for very good reason. It has delivered some fantastic stuff so far. I've got the blessing of the camera. I've bestowed a fantastic vehicle on that, and I'm not letting it go. Either way, we head through Maggott in just a moment. It's going to be Webb ahead of Hilton, ahead of Millman as we run onto the Wellington straight. Here we go, great run for Hilton this time out. Leaves the slipstream, has a look around the outside, but as he leaves that, losing the advantage early on the brakes for Webb. That means that Hilton can potentially hang around the outside. Can he? Doesn't quite work out. Webb remains in front in 10th at the moment, but Hilton has the inside for the right-hander Duffield as we run through Woodcote in just a moment. There we go then. Still having a look around down the inside rather as Duffield gets a better run into Woodcote and then gets a better run onto the start finish straight as well. Paul Millman still waits with bated breath just behind as we run through Cobbs. There's contact between, I was thinking that just looking at the angle of that rear wing, contact between Hilton and Webb. Webb continues on in P11. He's putting pressure on Hilton. Webb unaffected by that contact, but Hilton having a look down the inside, nowhere for him to go. And he ends up a few seconds behind. That might be it for Hilton's race, but he has put on a show for us, that is for sure. So now this becomes a 2-car battle for P10. Millman leads us down the Wellington straight. A couple of seconds separating Millman and Webb as we run in to the left-hander in just a moment. Dipping onto the brakes, the rear axle locking up, and we'll see it's looking good for Millman at the moment. Webb on those medium tyres, I should add, so we'll see if they work out. We'll get a better idea if they work out of we're going to see likes of Miles Davis and Andy Webb running on in race 2. First good race coming up in a few minutes, around about 7 minutes time, where you will see the top 7 results, the top 7 finishes of this race 1, having their order reversed. So if we finish 7th, John Cole will start on pole for race 2. Here we go then, we look at Colin Keith and Matt Daly, who are around about a lap ahead, starting on the final laps of this race. No change in order there for those 2 drivers. Here we see Paul Millman ahead of Andy Webb now, looking pretty comfortable. It must be said, although I suspect Andy Webb is going to continue on that charge as we head into the final laps of this race. Here we go then, less than 30 seconds left on the clock. Millman ahead of Webb at the moment. No major change there. If anything, Millman building up a gap, gaining confidence throughout this race. That much is very much clear for Paul Millman. 20 seconds left on the clock. This will be the ultimate lap of this race, which means that Colin Keith leads us as we start ourselves, as we continue on the second to last lap. Potentially lead us, probably lead us onto our final lap of this race. One last attempt for Matt Daly to try and find their way past. We do look though at John Cole and Andy Craker, who are very close together indeed. Heading through turn one we go, and it's John Cole who is on the defence here against Andy Craker. A bit of a charge, another driver who seems to have really got into a rhythm in this race. Earlier on, perhaps looking a little bit wayward, but now very much confident. Let's not forget, Andy Craker on lap one was stone dead last at one point. A little bit of contact here between Cole and Craker as we run through Maggot's right hand there onto the Wellington straight we go, and John Cole's already poised to defend the inside of Brooklands in just a moment. A little bit of an equilibrium in terms of straight line speed, but late on the brakes goes Craker, potentially too late. We'll just have to see if that does work out. It does work out. Next tight line to the inside, there's contact between the two. He backs off as Craker, but Cole very much aware of Andy's presence, courtesy of that slight love tap. We head round the right hander and onto the start finish straight in just a moment. Woodcote first. Not a real corner really to consider for these high grip cars, but we have now started the final lap of the race. Where are our two race leaders? They're heading around Brooklands themselves in a moment. As we do go side by side, we will have to join our race leaders in just a moment, but this is a fantastic battle between Cole and Craig. But here is Colin Cleave heading around Woodcote. Start to finish domination. Was some challenge earlier on, but does take the race victory. Congratulations, Colin. Matt Daly brings it home P2. A little wait for Greg Young as well. Meanwhile, we do have this brilliant battle between John Cole and Andy Craker as we run down the Wellington straight once more. Craker just a little bit further behind. Are we going to see any late moves as Greg Young rounds out that podium with a B3? Here comes Craker, defended though by John Cole. He just about leads a car with, and a fantastic brave move by Andy Craker there. Contact between Cole and Craker though. That spins Craker round. The big question is, can he get back underway quickly enough? I don't think he can. He's going to lose position. It's going to be John Cole then bringing it round Woodcote in just a moment in P7, and potentially controversial race-ending contact for Andy Craker. He will bring it home P9 at least, so not all lost, but what a shame for the battle to end like that. Miles Davis then bringing it home P8. A nice points finish for our rookie driver. Then we do have Andy Craker bringing it home in P9, followed by Paul Millman at P10. The last point scoring position then going to Paul Millman. That is ahead of Andy Webb and Mike Hilton. What a brilliant race one. That just makes me more and more excited for our reverse grid race coming up in just a moment. See you in a few minutes, folks. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the action on the grid, folks. Here we are. Here's our reverse grid race order with 30 seconds left to the clock. John Cole and Jack Hodson are your front row. Then we have Alan Matthews and Nathan Birch, followed by Greg Young and Matt Daly. Then it's Colin Knief and Miles Davis on row 4. We have Andy Craker and Paul Millman row 5, followed by Andy Webb and Mike Hilton on row 6. That's your order then. I hope we get as much action as we did in race 1. We'll just have to wait and see, folks, as the revs do begin to rise, as the drivers get ready to get their clutch bike points just perfect to get these front-wheel drive cars off the line. We do, in fact, have 6 red lights on the gantry. A false start for Nathan Birch. Let's see what he makes of it. And we are away. Nathan Birch doing the thing that you're kind of supposed to do, really, in a false start in a Assetto Corsa, which is just go for it. You've got a couple of laps to dive into the pit lane to serve a penalty, but you just have to go for it. You false started at that point, you might as well get as much of an advantage as possible. So Nathan Birch leads us, but in effect, John Cole leads us into maggots here. Deep into the corner goes John Cole. Jack Hodson goes even deeper and loses time trying to rejoin the circuit. This is a great start for Matt Daly. P2 in the previous race is definitely far ahead of his championship rival, though, and race start rival in race 1. Because Colin Knief, a poor start in this reverse grid race, down to P11, unless he just fancies his chances at a last to first challenge. Either way, we run through Brooklands, keeps the nose clean, but he is down to P11. Andy Craker off and in to the outside of the circuit. What a shame for Andy Craker to start race 2. Not quite the way he would have wanted, I suspect. Andy Webb is side by side with Miles Davis as we head around Woodcote in just a moment. And on to the start-finish straight we go. Nathan Birch has had a big hit. There we go. He's had to dive into the pits for his false start, of course. Serve a penalty and be back out on track. John Cole then leads us half a second ahead of Matt Daly. What a start for Matt Daly this has been. Watch out for him for a race win here, folks. He has got some really impressive pace. Was on par with Colin Knief, just couldn't find a way past. Was quick enough to match him, not quick enough to get an advantage to get past him. So I suspect John Cole's going to have to work it out for him. Then we have Alan Matthews, P3, just ahead of Greg Young. Then we have Colin Knief, who's worked his way up from P10 up into P5, so definitely not out for count is Colin Knief. And then Miles Davis and Paul Millman side by side as we run down into Brooklands here. And there could be contact. No, well executed by both of our drivers. Miles Davis has the inside for Luffield in just a moment. And we run through Woodcote in just a second here. And we have Mike Hilton just behind these two. Andy Webb in the mix of things as well. As we run on to the start-finish straight, Mike Hilton will be hoping for a slightly better run out this time out. As will Andy Craker, I suspect. Nathan Birch, after his false start, what a shame for him. It could have been a real opportunity after a reverse grid start. Was up in P3, no less. Now finds himself in last time being. But here we see Colin Knief having a look at P3 very briefly. There's contact between Alan Matthews and Greg Young. This could open up a perfect opportunity for Colin Knief as he runs around the right-hander onto the Wellington straight. He goes side by side with Alan Matthews. That door opens up because the contact forces Matthews wide. And here we go, it's Colin Knief with the nose out in front. Into P3 we go. A clunk on the gearbox there. You saw the car lurch forward on the shift. And here we go, contact between Alan Matthews and Colin Knief. I don't think Colin expected Alan Matthews' nose to be there. That is a pure racing incident. Nothing they could have done. There's more contact between Matthews and Knief. I'm getting some net code here, I suspect. A bit of lag potentially creeping in. Because here we go, Jack Hodson through 4. Fantastic run through Brooklands. Where's Jack Hodson come from? We're now side by side. We're not going to be 3 wide pretty much as we run through Cops. This is brilliant. Alan Matthews with the inside. On the defensive though is Colin Knief. That forces Jack Hodson wide. And through comes Miles Davis as well. Up into P6 for the time being. Could be a little bit higher though. Colin Knief running in P4. Greg Young is his next target. What a drive for Colin Knief. Works his way up through Alan Matthews and Miles Davis and Jack Hodson in fact. I have to tip my hat off to you all there for trying to mount a charge against Colin Knief, the man on pole in qualifying, the man who took the race 1 victory pretty convincingly as he worked his way up through the reverse grid order. Here we go then, Alan Matthews on the defences. Big contact between Miles Davis and Alan Matthews. Well held by Alan Matthews, it must be said. Oh, big contact though between Jack Hodson and Alan Matthews as he rejoins the circuit. More contact as well. Somehow they all keep the cars pointing in the right direction. And in the madness of all of this, it's now Jack Hodson who leads this battle in P5 as it turns out. Greg Young is currently being targeted by Colin Knief. Here we go. This is our closest battle. Is it though? Because here is Matt Daly and John Cole. We need to keep an eye on that. But we have Jack Hodson and Alan Matthews run through the Cops corner. Better run for Alan Matthews, and up into P5 we go. That means Jack Cotton jumps down into P6. Watch out for Miles Davis, though. Miles Davis heading round Maggots in just a second. Here we go, the car in yellow, taking a tight line under pressure from Paul Millman now. Paul Millman's involved in this battle, and onto the Wellington straight we go. Alan Matthews leads us in P5. Just behind is Jack Cotton in the slipstream here. We've seen many an overtake running into Brooklands here. The inside line does open up an opportunity, and Matt Daly is through potentially for the lead of this race. We'll try and get a glimpse of that mid-pack battle, but we do need to stay tuned for this one, folks, as we see John Cole is side by side running through Woodcote, and onto the start-finish straight we go with the car in orange rivaling the car in yellow, and it's going to be Matt Daly leading it around the outside potentially. No, he thinks wiser of it. John Cole, an impressive return to the AROC Racing Leagues for the car in orange and black there, as we see Matt Daly taking a cleaner line, running through into Maggots in just a moment, and we see them being pretty much side by side, but it is Matt Daly who takes the race lead. The question is, for how long? We know John Cole's got a decent amount of pace that can certainly mount a challenge. We have to watch out as well for Colin Caniff, who's setting purple sector after purple sector, and I suspect is not going to give up. I'm very much aware of a fantastic battle just behind Alan Matthews ahead of Jack Cotton, Miles Davis and Paul Millman actually in P8. Here is Andy Webb putting pressure on Paul Millman as well. Nathan Birch losing out in this one, as did Andy Craker. Andy Craker in P12, Nathan Birch P11. Mike Hilton watching on in this fantastic battle for P8 there, as Mike Hilton gets very close indeed to Paul Millman, but just about keeps ahead. Here we go then, it's going to be Matt Daly ahead of John Cole now. Can John Cole mount a charge? I don't think he's going to have too much time on screen to do that though, because look at the battle going on between Colin Caniff and Greg Young here. Greg Young going down to the inside over Cobbs. Around the outside goes Colin Caniff. Potentially there's a little bit of contact between the two, but they are able to continue on. Side by side we go through Maggots in just a moment. First we have the long sweeping left-hander at high speed. 3 seconds is the gap between Greg Young and Matt Daly, but half a second is the gap between Colin Caniff and Greg Young as we run onto the Wellington straight once more. Less than half a second is our gap for the lead of this race, as we see Matt Daly diving across the circuit to try and break that slipstream. John Cole waiting in tow. Side by side goes Colin Caniff as we head into the braking zone. Just behind them is Alan Matthews and Jack Cotton. They're beginning to put pressure on each other, and we do have a 3-car battle brewing further down the order. Here comes Mike Hilton down the inside into Brooklands we go. What a fantastic race. Race 2 is shaping up to be just like race 1 was. Fantastic stuff from our runners here. Mike Hilton is on the softs. Paul Millman is now our only driver on the medium tyres. Our 2 rookies from race 1, they were on mediums, they are now on softs, I should add, as we have a big bit of contact there for Andy Webb. We saw his car pirouetting across the track pretty much, and he is now in P12. So a bit of compensating cars there really today, and a big crash happened. So unfortunately for Andy Webb, no front wing left either. Pretty much brings an end to his charge in this race, but a netcode definitely creeping in there. That is a little lag that we are seeing on our screen. Either way, we continue on. Matt Daly leads this race by 1.5 seconds to John Cole. Just behind is Colin Caniff, race 1 victor, of course, with pressure from Greg Young. Then we dip just behind to see Alan Matthews potentially under threat from Jack Cotton, but at the moment our closest pack, must be said, is actually going to be Bull and Andy Craker. What a brilliant start to the race this was. Our mid-pack offering so much in terms of fantastic close nail-biting action here in this the inaugural race for this season. Fantastic for our drivers, new and old. So a big thank you to everyone for getting involved, for making sure the AROC Racing Leagues can continue on this season. And if you are enjoying, do make sure to drop a comment on the stream. I am monitoring them as always, folks. Do share it around to your family, your friends, anyone who might be interested in racing, whether it be just something to watch from 8 PM onwards on a Wednesday evening, or maybe even to take part in as well. Make sure get the word out there about the AROC Racing Leagues. Here we go, Paul Millman under pressure from Andy Craker here, heading round towards Brooklands in just a moment, but first we have the long Wellington straights to negotiate on this 59-ish second lap for our mid-pack here. There we go, Andy Craker trying to make amends for a race to forget in race 1 and a race start to forget in race 2. He goes down the inside on Paul Millman. Nice clean move there for Andy Craker as he goes up into P9. His next target will be Mike Hilton. We saw these two enjoying a battle earlier on in race 1. Mike Hilton again in race 2 as a near contact between our two. They nearly trade paint there, but we do continue on with Craker P9 unaffected by the progress of. So after a very close bit of running, it is Matt Daly who leads us 2.8 seconds clear of John Cole. John Cole 0.4 of a second separating him and Colin Keefe. Colin Keefe is going to be mounting a charge against our two orange liveried cars here, now embroiled in a battle again, very close indeed as we head down towards in just a moment. It's going to be Colin Keefe attacking from the outside and John Cole trying to defend from the inside. Nicely executed from Colin, brings it around the outside, that gives him the inside for Luffield, and there we go, it's Colin Keefe in second in this race. Now we get the battle, I think, in around about 5 minutes time that we could have been waiting for all weekend, folks. We've already enjoyed plenty of fantastic action out on track so far here at the Silverstone National layout, but we are going to see Colin Keefe, who's got a slightly, and I do mean very slightly, better best lap in this race overall, slightly faster so far. That was just about the case in race 1 as well. Could this be the opportunity that Colin Keefe needs to try and bring a charge to Matt Daly? We're going to see Matt DeFaley on the attack instead of on the defence here in race 2. Let's just wait and see, folks, as we've got plenty of other close action out on track. As we see in P5 at the moment, it's Alan Matthews and Jack Hodson battling it out. Just a little bit behind, it's Miles Davis. There we have Paul Millman and Mike Hilton actually enjoying a bit of a squabble here as we head through Maggots in just a moment. See if we are going to get any more of that, or is Mike Hilton going to remain behind Paul Millman for the time being? Opting for the mediums this time around, a few of a retirement of the evening from Nathan Birch. The race pretty much over from the get-go, of course, with that early pit stop penalty from that false start. What that does mean, of course, is that he wasn't scored points anyway, so we don't entirely blame him for wanting to drop off. But we continue on. 14 minutes left on the clock, and here we see Paul Millman under pressure from Mike Hilton in the Canberra car livery. Watch out, keep it clean, Mike. Keep my fantastically camo liveried car there. It's like a battleship in clean shape. I wonder if that's why. We're trying to make sure we don't see it on stream. We're not doing a good job of that as we run through cops. And further into the lap we go. Defending well so far. We're not quite at the halfway mark in this race just yet. We're not going to see the medium size coming into their own quite at this point. We might see that later, around about the 7-minute mark left on the clock. We're not to see any difference if there is going to be one at various tracks. At the moment, Paul on those mediums defending well against the softs. Able to keep at day 4, P9, so we'll look at a couple of points on offer for Paul as he starts his championship standings charge. Brilliant battle still brewing on between these two as we run through Maggots. We could watch this all race, I suspect, because it'll probably go on for the entire race. Here we see John Cole and Greg Young, though, scrapping it out as we run up through Luffield in just a moment. Our two front ones breaking away now. That is looking pretty settled out in front. But here we see the battle for the finals podium spot here. A very important battle, of course, as we see Mike Hilton getting past Paul Millman. Then we see Miles Davis getting ahead of Andy Craig, and Jack Hodson was off the circuit at one point as well, but they are able to continue on. And John Cole gets ahead of Greg Young, but Greg Young really putting on a fight here. Slightly faster overall is Greg Young in comparison to John Cole. They are side by side, they are making contact as well as we come through Maggots here. So let's see, John Cole maintaining P3. The question is how long Greg Young over many a season has shown us that he does know how to navigate these Juliet WTCRs around the circuit pretty well. John Cole does have a decent turn of pace in him as well. So let's see if we can down towards Brooklands in just a moment. Having a look down the inside is Greg Young. Cole makes it as difficult as he really can while still maintaining a fair racecraft here, and he does do that. But Greg Young has to relent and remains at P4 for the time being. Let's see how long that is the case for. Still side by side, making ever so slight contact, in fact, as we run up through onto the start-finish straight. Just over 10 minutes left to go in this race. John Cole takes P3, a lock up from the rear axle there. It's quite easy to do when you unload rear axle on the brakes in these cars. The weight is already pretty front biased, and it just gets more front biased as you begin to stamp on the stop pedal. And here we see Greg Young darting across the circuit as he looks towards the inside here at Brooklands. That could open up another opportunity around towards Luffield for John Cole, though. If Greg Young doesn't defend well, but Greg Young does defend well indeed as we run around the right-hander here. Corners come by very quickly indeed here. National layout is 58-second lap for Matt Daly out of 50.0-second lap for Colin Knief. As we just see a glimpse of him heading into shot into turn 1. Here's our battle for the podium. There's so many battles to pick from in this race, so it's gander through the grid in just a moment. But it's Greg Young who maintains P3 now, builds up about a second. John Cole. Less than 10 minutes on the clock now. We can see Mike Hilton and Paul Milman. This seems to have been attached pretty much all race, which is fantastic to see these guys out on track enjoying a battle. You also have Miles Davis and Andy Craig getting a little bit close as well. Where are they heading through now? They're running up through Brooklands and Luffield as we see them coming into shot here. And then the start finish straight before the start the next lap of this race. A little bit deep and onto the grass goes Miles Davis. That does open up a prime opportunity for Andy Craker to side on through, and into P6 goes Andy Craker, but still P7, a good haul of points to be taken for Miles Davis if he can maintain, or maybe even in the final 8 minutes of this race. There we have Mike Hilton running in P9, in the best of of course, and then Paul Milman in P10, Andy Webb running in P11. Unfortunate DNF for Nathan Birch, but hopefully he can pick up pieces for the next meet in a fortnight time. Of course, we have some single-seater action. Can you tell I'm familiar with our previous format? Some historic action next week as well. Seeing Matt Daly and Colin Knief have maintained a very similar gap out front. We barely looked at our two. We looked at them a bit in race 1, but in race 2 there's been even more mid-pack action distracting us from the back. And Colin Knief is very slowly but surely chipping away at Matt Daly. But what this race weekend has gone to show is that we are in for a true championship fight, folks. As we're going to see other drivers, might not be present as even the likes of Andrew Whitehead, begin to get a rhythm, get an improvement upon things in terms of their driving, and also likes maybe John Cole, Greg Young also getting speed as well. They're going to be the mix championship. The likes of Matt Daly and Colin Knief, they are showing that they are equal in terms of pace. Maybe that's track wrap, but so far they're equal. We're going to be in for a true championship fight, so that could be down to the wire. It's early to predict, obviously, 12 rounds to go, but what a start it has been for these two drivers. They'll be on equal points so far, which is great to behold. Very close running though between John Cole and Alan Matthews as we have a look down towards P4. And John Cole had some immense pace starting this race on pole, but is starting to lose a couple of places to the mid-pack. And if I have to guess, there's a reason as to why. I'll put it down to tyres. He has been scrapping out very consistently throughout this race, which is great to see. Thank you, John, for putting on a remarkable show for us. But I suspect that Alan Matthews might just have a slightly more comfortable car to drive at this point, because Alan Matthews has had the odd kind of battle to contend with at the moment, but has also just had a nice clean laps. I suspect his tyres pretty happy out there as we go on to Wellington straight in just a moment. Here we see Alan Matthews able to carry more pace through Maggots. And we go side by side down the Wellington straight. It will be the outside line for Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews early on the brakes there. Is he trying to bait John Cole into a defensive move there? I think he is, but John Cole is wise to that and defends the inside anyway. I think Alan Matthews was hoping for a bit of a switchback there. Didn't quite work out. Let's see if it does next time around. Just over 6 minutes left in this race. What race it has been as we start the next at Silverstone National layout. Meanwhile, at the front end of the pack, as we do watch this brilliant battle, half a second separating news to less than half a second. Actually, we're going to stay with this battle as we jump onto the Wellington straight. Here we go, John Cole defending from Alan Matthews. Alan Matthews having a look down the inside. Late on the brakes he goes, but knows he can't quite make it stick because John Cole is stoic running through Brooklands. He has demonstrated that throughout the weekend. We'll be back at Silverstone very late on in the season, but that will be fantastic to watch. That'll be on the full layout as well. So we're going to see this overtaking opportunity present itself on a few more occasions. Alan Matthews, so gets better momentum heading through Woodcote, and is going to be side by side. Actually gets a nose out in front, but does have the outside for Copse. Can he bait John Cole to run wide into Copse? Let's just see as they run through. He does. Alan Matthews gets a much nicer run heading through from the outside and takes P4 in this race. Fantastic stuff from the green and white liveried car here. Running through Maggots in just a moment. Doesn't need to go too deep, otherwise John Cole will pounce upon the opportunity to take back that position. Onto Wellington straight we go. This battle is very much not over yet, as we have seen it be much closer in the past. Oh, Miles Davis just behind, gets ahead of Jack Hodson, running through Maggots himself, and it's Miles Davis up into P7, trying to gain a few more points. But here we go, John Cole running into Brooklands and is a little bit behind Alan Matthews. So let's see though, does that continue on as we go through Duffield and Woodcote in just a moment. 0.3 of a second is the margin, making around about 0.4 as we run on to the start-finish straight. And for now, Alan Matthews is controlling things. What I was going to mention earlier on, before we were sidetracked by that brilliant battle, is that Matt Daly and Colin Keneally a little bit closer this time around. I suspect that it's probably due to a potential kind of mistake corner here or there, or maybe Matt Daly's not quite clean on the previous lap. What it might also be is Colin Keneally is setting purple sectors at the moment out on track. He did last time out in the second half of the national layout, and he looks poised to do the same here because he's found a couple of tenths. As we run through Luffield onto the start-finish straight we go. That gap was 3 seconds, it's now 2 seconds. Could it be done in around about 5 laps? You never know. Let's just wait and see. 4 or 5 laps is what we have left in this race. We'll just have to see if this fight will race does continue on. Meanwhile, Jack Hodson gets an overtake on Miles Davis. The question is for how long as we run through Brooklands, because he goes too deep into the corner. Does Jack Hodson? Miles Davis says thank you very much and takes back P7 in the action here. What a drive it has been for so many of our drivers starting off the season. What a way to start off the WTCR season. If this doesn't get you hooked, I don't know what will, because it has been thoroughly enjoyable to watch along. It's been thoroughly enjoyable to commentate. Thank you very much for all tuning in and for taking part as well. As I say, do share it around because we need to get this fantastic racing action out to more eyeballs. It would be a terrible shame for all of our drivers to put on such a fantastic show for us only to not get it out there. So even outside of the AROC racing or the AROC owners, sorry, the Alfa Romeo owners club community, just get it out there because it is fantastic racing. Let's see more people getting involved and enjoying it because these drivers show for us. They've put a remarkable amount of effort in, so it'd be a shame left. A big thank you to all of our drivers who put on such a show for us. Big thank you to everyone behind the scenes as well. 2 minutes on the clock. Matt Daly leads by 2.5 seconds. That gap has built up ever so slightly compared to where it was around about a lap ago. Greg Young, a comfortable P3 at the moment. He can rest easy knowing that he's likely to take that podium play. Alan Matthews seems to be settled in P4 now ahead of John Cole, but John Cole did put up a remarkable fight. Thoroughly enjoyed John Cole working his way through the field. Then we have Andy Craker, definite turnaround in comparison to Rachel. Happy with P6. These are the points taken away. Then we have Miles Davis running in P7 at the moment, just ahead of Jack Hodson, who's just ahead of Mike Hilton as well. Then we have Paul Milman running in P10, and Andy Webb will be classified P11. Substantial damage on his car. Just look at how irresponsive that car is, or responsive rather that car is. You can tell when a car is really damaged when they've got the smash windscreen, and it has. That car is understeering its way through the corners. Andy Webb, he's a rookie. He's doing a remarkable job at just bringing that car home. The damage that it does carry. I believe we just saw Mike Hilton. No, sorry, Paul. No, sorry, it was Andy Webb having an off there. Apologies, it was Andy Webb having a bit of an off there. Well, the action seems to have ever so slightly died down. It has relented after 50 minutes worth of brilliant racing action, as we said. Well done to everyone out there on track running on a show, as I say. I hope we do get that as the season progresses. Less than a minute left on the clock. Where are we on track with our race leader? Our race leader is Daly. He couldn't quite do it in race 1, but with a fantastic start of the reverse grid race. Worked his way up from the front end of the pack and has stayed there. Colin Knief, it just goes to show you do need to execute the race start and the reverse grid perfectly. Colin Knief has got race leading pace, but for around about a half lap, maybe a lap and a half, ways behind, and that has cost him victory potentially in this race. The gap has closed down, it's now 1.8 seconds, and we are running around the Maggots Bend, which means this will be the penultimate lap of this race. These two drivers. So, watch these two then. It's Matt Daly and Colin Knief ahead of Greg Young on 3 here, on 3 drivers looking likely to take the podium. And as I mentioned, it just goes to show you do need to execute these reverse grid races perfectly. It's why I do like having these reverse grid races on our format, because it just adds a spanner into the works for our drivers. It'll be a clear cut. Yeah, if you've won race 1, you're likely to win race 2 unless there's any major issues. Just completely make our race 1 victors have to work for it a little bit more as we do now start the final lap of this race. We might be afforded some time to start boarding them, but Miles Davis and Jack Hodson are looking like we've got another fine battle, as are Andy Craker and Miles Davis. Miles Davis having a look down the inside into Brooklands. We go side by side. Miles Davis says, I want P6, I want all those points. And Miles Davis might have had it done if it weren't for a fantastic defensive drive from Andy Craker. Does he go too deep into Luffield though, trying to maintain P6? I think he does. And we're going to see Miles Davis running through Woodcote back in the lead. No, we're not. A great run from the outside. Andy Craker sees him maintaining P6. The question is for how long, because here is Miles Davis with the inside into Dobbs, deep into the corner, late on the brakes, but well defended by Andy Craker throughout this battle so far. Where are Matt Daly and Colin Knief? They're heading around the final couple of corners now. Matt Daly then responds to Colin Knief's victory in race 1 in this reverse grid race, weaving in celebration by taking the race 2 victory. Congratulations, Matt Daly. It's Colin Knief bringing it home in P2 as well. Then we have a once again deja vu here, a little wait for Greg Young to bring it home and round out the podium, but fantastic effort this race weekend overall. What a way to start the championship charge. But further down the order, as we see Greg Young cross the line there to take P3, it's a 3-car battle for P7. What a drive it has been for so many drivers in the mid-pack. That has been the major standout point for our drivers in this midfield action. We saw it in qualifying how close it was, and it is so close in racing as well. It is going to be John Cole P5, Andy Craker P6, just ahead of Miles Davis P7, followed by Jack Hodson P8. Then we have Mike Hilton bringing the Canberra car home in P9. Paul Millman will be classified P10. He will take that P10. Andy Webb will be classified P11. No points on offer, but Paul Millman takes that final point position. What a race weekend it has been. I hope you've enjoyed watching as much as I've enjoyed commentating as we see our drivers dive into the pits to bring an end to their race weekend. What a way to start the season. Thoroughly enjoying that. I do believe they're having some end of race fun as we see Miles Davis on his side there. What a drive it has been. We see 4 of our competitors bringing the cars home. Thoroughly deserved as they have a bit of demolition derby. Well done to everyone involved. I'm very much looking forward to some more WTCR action in a fortnight, but next week we're going to go jump back into our historics. Our GTA 1750 is back out on track, so stay tuned for that, folks. Thank you very much for watching this evening, and good night.